This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast. Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, I'm Denise Gustafson, Editorial Director for Printing United Alliance, and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting women in the printing industry. During this series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman in the industry. So today it's my pleasure to welcome Anne-Marie Lentz. She's the COO of the Specialty Graphics Division at Serigraph. So Anne-Marie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do as the COO of the Specialty Graphics Division? What does that entail?
Sure. Well, first, let me just give an explanation of the two divisions of Serigraph.
Perfect.
We are in our 75th year in business. So we are celebrating that this summer.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I'm very excited about that. It's a family-owned business, and it has two divisions because we have such distinct markets that we serve within the print industry. The Integrated Graphics Division creates highly engineered durable goods for the automotive, appliance, medical, power sports industries. Very distinct set of product lines there. And then the Specialty Graphics Division, which I get to manage, is more along the lines of point of purchase. Historically, we just succeed. We thrive at managing the chaos for quick service restaurants. It's a big portion of our business where we execute on the promotional campaigns on a monthly basis for quick service restaurants, and between 20,000 or 30,000 shipments to franchisees every month. That's a big portion of the Specialty Graphics Division. And then we do retail displays. We've launched into dye sublimation fabric print. We've dabbled in environmental graphics. So a lot of things, who knows what comes next. But as the COO, I oversee the sales, the customer service, and the execution of operations for the division. And the two divisions of Serigraph then have some shared services with HR and finance and IT, but I get to kind of look at it from sale to shipment for the division.
That certainly keeps you busy.
I am busy. There is not a boring day here.
That's always a good thing, I think. Can't have a boring day. Of course, now the question is, how did you get started? How did you get to where you are today?
I started as an intern at Serigraph.
Really?
And I did. While I was in school, I was earning my chemistry degree. And I learned of Serigraph. And that last summer before I graduated, I worked in the R&D lab as a chemist tech. And I was formulating inks for better adhesion or for fade resistance or elongation. And I found it kind of interesting. I didn't know what I wanted to do with a chemistry degree. I had not a clue. In fact, I thought I wanted to teach, but I didn't go down the path of getting the education degree. And so I came out of school kind of with okay, now what do I do? Well, Serigraph ended up hiring me full time right out of school. I've been there since. So I was a chemist in the R&D lab. I quickly was asked to be project manager of a team of technical folks. And that then progressed to managing a team of project managers. And then there were several side steps. I was given several opportunities to just take some side steps to get some different perspectives. And so I spent time managing inside sales and putting forecasting processes in place and kind of some rigor around our quoting and estimating. So I spent time in sales. And then I had this unique opportunity to kind of take a step back from people management and dive into continuous improvement. And so Serigraph sponsored me and supported me to get trained with a Six Sigma Black Belt. And the idea was that I would come back and teach problem solving. So I spent like a year and a half or 2 years out teaching problem solving to operators, to executives, to just amp it up and take our business to the next level in all these small little ways across the board. And I enjoyed that very much. And then about 3.5 years ago, smack dab in the middle of COVID, the CEO said that he wanted to redeploy leadership in a different way, and I was asked to take this position. So I've been managing this division of the business for about 3.5 years. And it's kind of been a wild ride, like a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It gets you sometimes feeling like, oh, jack of all trades, expert of nothing. But when you have the perspective of so many different areas of the business, I feel like I'm more well-rounded. I can make smarter decisions because I understand the consequences, because I have maybe lived in that world already. So it's been kind of unique, and I'm just along for the ride.
That is absolutely amazing. The fact that you got a chemistry degree and now are a COO of a printing company or a division of a printing company,
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem like it's definitely not the typical way to get into the industry.
it's not. It's not. No. And there's chemists everywhere, but no one knows it. There's chemists in brewing companies, and there's chemists in shampoo companies and cosmetics. But when you look at the surface of a business, you're not like, oh, they must have chemists. I'll go apply there.
Hmm.
Nobody knows that that exists. They're kind of the behind the scenes. It's just cooking things up in the lab. But it was a really interesting path, and here I am.
That is very, very interesting to say the least. I think I'm a little bit blown away by that whole process, honestly, because I'm still trying to figure out how chemistry relates to that day-to-day operation. And I haven't put my head around that
I
yet.
think the chemistry degree, it made sense to be in the R&D lab and
Hmm.
formulating inks. And then the rest was just taking opportunities that were placed in front of me. Obviously, I worked hard. And then the opportunities came. I'm not the type of person that had a career plan just sketched out. Like, for this amount of time, I'm going to do this, and then this is my next step, and this is my next step, and this is my next step. That wasn't at all how I maneuvered the last few years. It may have helped me. My lack of planning may have actually helped me, because then I was that much more accepting of whatever opportunity came my way. I didn't say, oh, that's not really what I had planned. I said, let's go. Let's try it. So,
You were flexible and open to the different opportunities as they presented themselves.
right.
As a woman in manufacturing, in R&D, in chemistry, those are fields that primarily have been mostly male dominated. So
Yes.
have you faced challenges because of your gender in those positions?
I found that the struggles I had early on were more to do with being the intern,
Hmm.
less about being a woman in manufacturing, and more about being an intern and the challenges that stem from having that stigma attached to you. Because what I just described to you is that I moved pretty quickly from that intern status to managing a small team, and to try and build the credibility to get beyond just that intern stigma, be taken seriously. That, I found, was my biggest challenge early on. However, if I reflect a little bit more about that time period, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to be honest about it. The biggest challenges I faced early on were other women.
Really?
And yeah, and I hate to say that, but it was true. And in those cases, I was looking at these women who were further along in their careers as a potential mentor, and I went into those relationships in that fashion, and it didn't end up that way at all. And I never imagined that potentially my biggest obstacles would be other women in the sciences and in manufacturing. And it taught me some really valuable lessons about supporting those around me. I believe, natural in me to try and build others up around me instead of knocking them down. But I know that that's not the case for all. But we have to do better. We have to do better in lifting each other up and supporting those wins and those promotions, and not see it as a threat. And
Mhm.
I'm guessing that was what was at the root of all of that I felt early on in my career. But it's something I do very consciously, is try to build up the women and everybody around me to just be their best self, because that's how we all move forward.
And I wonder too if it was also partially because it was a different time. Now
Yeah.
it's very much different than what it was maybe when you were starting
Yeah.
out.
20 years ago. Right.
So when you look back and look at the situation around that, in some ways I might understand their reaction because it was so hard for them to get where they are.
Sure.
So there was a certain threat. You were new, you were up and coming.
Mhm.
They were just trying to protect all the work that they had
That they
put
had
into
done.
it.
Yes.
But like you said, we've changed and we've changed for the better in that the whole mentoring.
Mhm.
You went into that relationship thinking that, oh, this would be a great
Yes.
mentor to me. I would eventually like to maybe do something like that. How can
Yes.
it help me?
Yes. In that process, so I had that experience, and then I've spent time over the last many years mentoring other young women that have come into the organization. It's really nice when they're not in my direct line of authority. And so having that other division actually has been really nice because I can have those mentoring relationships from with women on the other side of the business without knowing it all about the day to day and being a non-biased opinion to what they're seeing. So I think that instance taught me a few things about what I do want to be as a woman leader and what I don't want to be as a woman leader. And you're right, things have changed a lot in 20 years. Time flies.
Oh, definitely. So in talking about leadership and some of those qualities that that women leaders, or maybe even all leaders should have, what do you think is really important for women to really be developing so that way they are better at their job as a leader in a company?
I think there are some characteristics that women have, stereotypical characteristics that women have that are absolute must haves to be a fabulous leader. I think if someone described the characteristics that I have as a leader, they would say that I'm empathetic, that I can put myself in other people's shoes and kind of see it from another perspective. I think they would say that I'm a good communicator because I listen. I listen and take it all in before I speak. And I also know how important nonverbal communication is and all of those things that come with that. And I've been told that I've been most successful because I connect with people easily. I draw people in, I make them feel heard, and I can bring others together for a common good. And if you'd have told me that those were the skills that were going to make me a great leader, because those are natural skills that I have, I didn't think that those were leadership skills. I would have thought of many other things, probably more technical things than those soft skills. So I think my advice would be to just look at what you're already given as natural characteristics, natural skill sets, because those I believe are the ones that make the most difference, the most impact as a leader are the ones that I already had.
When you were talking, it actually got me thinking to the saying that a lot of people have about you don't do business with companies, you do business with other people.
Yes.
And in the same regard, you're not doing business or you're not working with somebody just on a technical level. You're working person to person.
Yes. Yes.
So
And so much time is spent together, whether it's a customer or an employee or a community member. You spend so much time together. You have to make the human connection. And I think many times some may approach it as just business, but there is no business without the human connection that
yeah,
happens first. So,
exactly. So now you've been in this leadership role. I mean, you've been in leadership roles throughout your career, but
yep.
specifically this one.
Mhm.
How important is it to have women in those roles, in those leadership roles, whether they're on in the C-suite or even as team leaders? Why is
Sure.
it important for us to have those
I
women in
think I
positions?
think in support of what I just described, women stereotypically have different skill sets than men do, and we need both in leadership. We need both at the press. We need both as team leads. We need both in the C-suite because you should be surrounding yourselves by people that cover your blind spots. You don't want to surround yourself by people that have all of the same skill sets that you do. Sometimes we're drawn to others that are like us, and that could be a failure mode is if you hire around yourself and build a team that all look like you and have the same skill set as you, your blind spots are going to be even greater. I just see that need for building such well-rounded teams at all levels of the business and all different ideas, because then you minimize the blind spots and you make sure you're looking at things from all perspectives.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a benefit of a diversity of voices, whether it's gender, whether it's races, because everybody comes to the table with different experiences, different backgrounds, a different perspective. And again, it could be a blind spot for one person, but that's something that they may have lived with or they have experience in that you just don't have an experience in.
Right. And the diversity around bringing different generations together is definitely on the table right now. I have such a highly tenured workforce here, and we're trying so hard to grab those new, fresh, energetic ideas, and bringing them together is a challenge, but it must be done. We have to hear all of the voices, because the customer out there is also on the younger end, the buyers, the people that are doing the creatives. We need to learn how to speak to them and draw them in.
And also educate them.
Yes,
That's one thing that I found just in general is, especially after COVID, the buyers have changed dramatically.
for sure. We've seen the same thing, for sure.
They're younger. They don't, in some ways, they don't really know what they're doing.
No,
They're
they're coming out
hired.
of different industries. They're
Yeah.
coming out of different places.
So then the question is, how do we talk to those? It goes back to how do we get those young people into our own industry, into the printing industry?
Mm-hmm.
What are ways that we can do that? How are you doing that?
Well, I find the work that we do really interesting. You go out into the world and you see, oh, we made that menu board. Oh, we made that $5.99 meal deal. We made that graphic that's hanging in the grocery store, or that piece in the car from the other division. You go out into the world and we see our product all day, every day out in the world. And that's fun. It will never say Serigraph on it. We build other people's brands. We don't put ours out there. If I can draw folks into the excitement of seeing your work out on display all the time, out in the real world all day, that's, I think, something that's really, really neat. It's cool. It's tangible. The other thing that we do naturally here, I described to you my career path at Serigraph. That is not abnormal. What I just described to you happens many times. I have a handful of stories that I could just talk to about people that came in as operator and are now managing the entire shift, or someone who is in sales is now in accounting. And the career paths that you can pave here are really interesting. And we have a natural tendency to do it that way. It just happens. We don't even work at it. And if you can speak to a person that's early in their career about, hey, imagine this or imagine this, and just because you studied this doesn't mean you have to do this forever. We could try this and this, and that's when their eyes start to really open, and the excitement starts. So the excitement of the work, and then the potential for career development.
It's interesting in talking about the excitement of the work.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that is the most challenging in regards to that is, yes, I agree. Having pride of work and being able to see your work, even though it doesn't have Serigraph stamped on it, there's a certain pride that comes with that. But the fact that print is so ubiquitous now, people see it everywhere, but they don't make the connection that there's an industry behind it, that there's thousands and millions of people behind that industry, behind that sign, billboard, whatever it is, that support it. I think that's one of the bigger challenges, because people just expect to see direct mail. They expect to see billboards. They expect to see that, oh yeah, it's just part of the environment.
Right. But they don't think about who made that.
Exactly. And it's not until you can actually bring them in and have that conversation that the light bulb goes on.
Right. Right. We've welcomed the community in a few different ways, pre-COVID and post-COVID now. Bringing in eighth graders through a junior achievement program. The eighth graders come through and see, oh my gosh, I ordered off that menu board the other day. I didn't realize. Or describing the tour here as an episode of how it's made.
Mm-hmm.
Or the chaperones that come on that tour, and they're like, I had no idea that this was what was behind that concrete facade right in my neighborhood. I had no idea. And then just a few months ago, we did a doors open event, and many manufacturers in our area opened their doors to the community, and anyone could come through for a tour. And I just love hosting those because they're like, oh, I've seen that. I've seen that. I didn't realize in small town West Bend, Wisconsin, that we're doing all that like right here. And it's such a cool, there's the pride in my work that comes out, and opening the eyes of just a few more people in the community. Who knows what they went home and told their kids and told their grandkids and their best friend. And those types of things are really energizing to me, to show the world what happens behind this concrete facade.
Yeah, I love when that light bulb goes on and you see it in their eyes when they're starting to make those connections that, oh, that's I think is one of the more rewarding things when you're talking to people about the industry that don't know anything.
Right. And the light bulb that goes on when they realize, oh, you don't just press go on a printer. There's so much more than just pressing copy.
Or print, or yeah,
Or
just
print, yes.
file, print. Little
Yes.
there's a little bit more that goes in that's involved with that.
There is.
Especially when you're talking about you're doing quick service and you're dealing with thousands of locations.
And variations.
Yeah.
Every location is not a cookie cutter. So one has windows, one doesn't. One has 3 drive-throughs, one has none. The variations that come with that is what really, that's where we thrive, is keeping all of that straight and making sure the right stuff gets to the right place.
Yeah. Or they all have windows, but all the windows are different sizes.
Different sizes, yes. And we don't want anybody to have to pay for a sized graphic that won't go up, that won't fit. So we make sure they can only buy the pieces that fit.
On the back end, I can't imagine the IT and the infrastructure that has to go in place because of that.
Right. That's where I think where we do our best.
So kind of on that technology subject is there's been so much innovation over the years. I mean, obviously with you, you've seen it in the last 20 years. I think we've hit fast forward on just the innovation that's come out. How do you balance and respect some of the more traditional methods with the innovation that is still coming fast and furious?
That's something I face on the daily. The industry has such a rich history, and Serigraph has such a rich history. And I said earlier, we have such highly tenured folks. You know, the average tenure here is 19 years of service. And we just celebrated multiple 45-year anniversaries, and we just celebrated a 50-year anniversary. And these folks have been doing this type of work for so long and doing it so well. And it's what has gotten us to the place we are today. So communicating and embracing all of that history and the success we've had with how we've been doing it, paired with what got us here won't get us there, wherever there is next. And it's a very fine balance between just that legacy that all of these people have been working the legacy that all of the people have been building here, while still peppering in, hey, should we think about this? Should we think about this? I wonder if there's a better way. I wonder if we looked outside of these walls, if there's a better best practice to look at. I have that balancing act nearly every day when I've got my 40-year veteran that knows exactly how it's done. And then I bring in, say, a new person that has an idea about how it could be done differently. And that collaboration, making that collaboration productive, is a challenge. It's a challenge, and it's one that I face all the time.
Yeah, and not adversarial.
Yes. And I think I always go back to when it starts to get a little heated. We all want the same thing. We all want this place to be successful. We all want safe and secure jobs. We all want to deliver for our customers. If we can all come back to, we're all here for the same reason, with those high level reasons, then we can get back to, okay, let's look at it a different way. Let's look at it this way. So kind of grounding in the greater good every so often.
Yeah, when you're saying people that have been there for 40 years, 50 years, it's just thinking about the technology and the changes they have seen over those decades is just incredible.
It is, and we are in the process of an ERP implementation.
Oh,
And I
that's
know
fun.
that's a dirty word. Those folks that have been with us forever have been on the same ERP system for 30 years. And we are in desperate need of a new mousetrap in that regard. And it's scary. It's scary to a lot of the folks that have been doing the exact same type of data entry and planning, work order creation, and all of that. It's going to be a time of change, that's for sure, by implementing that new technology over the next year. And that's just in the computer system. Then add new dye sublimation presses and add new laser cutters and add new digital presses and automation and fulfillment. And it's like, no wonder everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off, because it's a lot of change and it's very fast.
And then you're looking now at the financial side of things. Now that you can, everything's all linked in together, you can see ink usage and waste and all of those other pieces that you might have not have had transparency or sight into.
It's overwhelming because you
Yeah.
have so much data to look at, and so many opportunities that you can see, and only so much time and resource. So prioritizing and making sure you set your strategy and don't allow the distraction. You can't do it all at once. You have to be very, very selective about what you choose first.
Very strategic, very selective, because you want it all to work.
Yes.
Definitely. A thought about networking and community. Print community is huge. So how important is it for you to network, to be involved with the community for your own professional growth?
It's unique, I think, that I've only worked at one place, and I'm coming up on 20 years. And the only way I get to get a glimpse of what other people are doing, how other businesses are run, is through networking in the print industry and in southeastern Wisconsin. And so I rely heavily on my professional networks to show me what's happening, because many people just say, oh, I want to go explore that. And then they jump and take a career path in a different place, and they get that exposure. And I've made my career jumps inside these four walls, and I have to continue to connect with others to be able to see what else is happening in the world. And so professionally, that's why I really value my network. Also, just getting out into the community here, this community that we employ, a bunch of people, a bunch of families, full families that work here. I'm actually headed out this afternoon to do a Habitat for Humanity build, and a bunch of others are from the business. So I gain a lot from the networking, and then I hope I'm able to give back a little bit in the community by doing afternoons like I'll have today.
Like that, like opening your doors and letting people in to really see, you are part of their community. You're helping to build the community.
I love when we have multi-generation families that work here. Oh, my grandson worked here. Oh, then my daughter worked here. And it's just really cool. There's obviously some trust built here that families will seek employment with us.
Yeah, definitely. So as we're wrapping up, I'm going to ask probably what my favorite question is. Knowing what you know now, based on your career path, what kind of advice would you give to yourself if you were just starting out, if you were just getting your foot in the door?
Work hard. That's kind of table stakes. My experience has told me that if you work hard, opportunities will be there for you. And when they come, take them. Don't worry about this wasn't what I was imagining. I don't know if I'm ready. What if this doesn't work out? Take them, because the person that's putting that opportunity in front of you might see more potential in you than you see in yourself. I think I've experienced that a few times, where opportunity comes, asked to take on something different or more, and I'm hemming and hawing, and it's all in my own head. Am I ready for that? Do I really have the skill set to do that? What if it doesn't work out? And time again, it's because that person that was asking me knew I was more capable than I thought I was. That's number one. When the opportunities come, take them. Don't be afraid. And then I'd say be authentic. Don't pretend to be something that you're not, because in you are some really fabulous natural characteristics that just need to come to the surface. So I believe you gain credibility by just being transparent and trustworthy. And you can only do that if you're being authentic, being yourself at all times with all interactions, not the politicking, none of that. So authenticity, I think, is really important. And just ride the wave, I guess, embrace what comes, and it'll be chaotic at times. I think everyone that's in the print industry would describe it as a bit chaotic. But if you can embrace those waves and ride, it can be a lot of fun.
Well, Anne-Marie, I think that is phenomenal advice. And thank you for spending some time with me today.
Thank you so much for asking.
I really appreciate it, and I really love this conversation.
Thank you so much.
So thanks again.